everybody has intuition, whether they're aware of it or not.
Totally.
And I think that we'd say the more that we connect with ourselves, the more we start to listen to that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think what gets in the way of intuition is the stress, the pressure, and the burnout.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
So in today's episode, we have Joe Forde. To me, Joe is a friend, a mentor, a coach, and I'm very blessed to have him in my circle. I want to let Joe to introduce himself and to tell us what he's doing and what he's doing extraordinary.
Thanks for the invite. I'm really looking forward to our chat. Yeah, my name is Joe Forde, and I've been in the health and wellness industry for approximately about 14 years now, and started out training in hypnotherapy, and from there then we'd say I've gone on to study lots of different other modalities, and I suppose in short we'd say what I do is I help people to make lasting changes in their life, whether that be in changing behaviours or overcoming some struggles, fears, problems they might be having in their life or their business. Yeah, that's kind of the area I've been working in, you know.
Okay. So I know Joe is doing a lot of different modalities. He's using a lot of modalities. And I want to know what brought you to hypnotherapy.
Yeah, like that we'd say I was in a total different industry completely. We'd say before this I was in fabrication, in sales, wholesale and retail, and so it was totally different to what I'm doing now. But like that we'd say I was a business owner, and with all the stress and all the problems that come with being a business owner, as we all know, that brought my attention to, it's a personal development and how could I manage my own state, how I could be more productive and so like that we'd say. And I take an approach, I suppose, at that time I thought it was working harder was the way to do it. But with working harder not working, for me, I started to look at working smarter. And I'd read lots of personal development books, and a lot of them talked about how you'd master and become more efficient, and we'd say, I suppose, get more success and all that kind of stuff was to master your subconscious mind. But I came to the end of a lot of books, but they never taught me how to do it. But one day then we'd say I was looking at the TV and a hypnotherapist was saying, and the one line was, and I help people to make changes in their life by connecting with their subconscious mind, and that kind of piqued my attention. So from there, I didn't intend at that stage, I didn't intend to work as a hypnotherapist. I just wanted to learn about hypnotherapy or hypnosis, we'll say, using it for self-hypnosis and for my own personal development. But the only courses that were available were to become a hypnotherapist. So I decided to do that. And in order to qualify then, we'd say we had to do some case studies, and I had to work with 10 people. And when I started doing that, I started to see that I could do it. I was getting good results at it, and people were happy with the work I was doing, and I was enjoying what I was doing. At the same time, the current business that I was in was not going well. The recession had kind of taken the good side out of it, and I was struggling a lot to keep going at that.
So you already had your own business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You knew what it means to be a business owner.
Yeah.
And
I knew all the struggles to go along with it. Yeah.
The joys or the less joys.
Yes. Yeah. And that I suppose that's what kind of drove me to study hypnotherapy. And then we'd say from there I went on to do a mentorship with a guy here in Galway, actually, John Connolly, an internship with him, and I started working with more clients. And from there we'd say I started studying other modalities then we'd say to go along with hypnotherapy. And like that we'd say, I suppose the thing about it is what you find is that there's no one approach that'll help everybody, but like that we'd say the more experience you have, and the more strings to your bow, we'll say, you can start to tailor, we'd say, what the person needs that's in front of you. So it's not a one shoe fits all kind of approach.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's music for my ears. Yeah. Definitely, it's not one rule fits all.
Yeah.
From what you are telling us, I don't know where to start with the questions because I have so many. So first, let's go back. What for the person, Joe Forde, what was the moment when, what was the decision, the reason behind the decision of changing the domains, the industry, what was the, I guess, was not fulfilling something?
Yeah. Well, like that, we'd say I found like that I was working harder and not making any great progress as well. And I was finding that I was stressed out, burnt out, tired, all those kind of things. And like that, we'd say I was looking for and I knew that the key was inside here.
Mm-hmm.
More than here, because I had tried manually, we'd say, doing all the manual work and doing the longer hours and all that kind of stuff, but there was something in my psychology that wasn't right. And I think a lot of it was, we'd say, that I had a mindset that even that belief that by working harder that was your key, you know.
Yeah.
So when you have a belief that working harder, you'll find a hard way to do everything as well. So
yes,
you know, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, you know. So that was.
Do I sense a bit of intuition there? Like,
and I think everybody has intuition, whether they're aware of it or not.
Totally.
And I think that we'd say the more that we connect with ourselves, the more we start to listen to that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that when people but I think what gets in the way of intuition is the stress, the pressure, and the burnout. You know.
Okay, tell us more about that, because I think that's a very common thing at the moment, and I think our current society encourages doing, overdoing to prove yourself and overachieving. So how that is against our nature, because I believe it is.
Yes, yeah, and that's another thing as well. We'd say is just from, I suppose, the last 12 or 14 years of studying this kind of stuff, and I have a very big, I suppose, interest in human psychology and how the mind works, how the body works, how people create behaviors and ways of responding. And I think we've gone so far away from our natural, innate way of doing things, and we've gone so away from our primal beings. And our whole society, and I suppose the speed as well that these changes have happened. Because if we even look at, we just go back 50 years, a lot of houses, they might have had one bathroom.
Yes, yeah.
They may have, some of them might even had a bathroom inside, it was outside, you know what I mean? And we go 50 years forward, and like we have robotic bathrooms, you know what I mean? We have AI.
That's mind-blowing, actually, yeah.
And like that, we'd say, and even if we just go back 5 years, we'd say the development in the last 5 years as well has been very, very accelerated. So I think our nervous systems that are thousands of years old are still going to be working from that paradigm, and they're finding it hard to adjust to the pace of life and the way we're living. That whole doing more, constantly on the go, and people may not even feel that they are stressed, but their nervous
because it's their normal.
Yes.
Okay.
But their nervous system is on the stress side of the nervous system. It's in that fight or flight side. It's on the sympathetic side of the nervous system. And there's nothing wrong with the sympathetic side of the nervous system as long as we're not there all the time.
Okay. So hold on a second there, because I want to unpack that for our listeners and people who are watching. I know for us, it's very common to say nervous system, to say that we are in this fight and flight and all that. But you made a statement there, if I heard well, that our nervous system is way older than us, years older than us. So why is that? And can you explain in a little bit very basic words for people who are not familiar, who are not doing any nervous system work? And because this podcast is for ordinary people who are trying to break through the noise out there to this overwhelm, and trying to access those modalities. And I think this will make a difference.
Yeah. Well, like that, we'd say, I suppose, the nervous system is broken into two branches. One is what we call our sympathetic, which is what we associate with, say, our stress response or our fight or flight response. And then we have our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest or relaxation response. So we have stress on one side, we have relaxation on the other. And like that, we'd say it isn't that one is better than the other. We need both sides of that nervous system because we need alertness, we need focus, we need to be able to respond to things that will change. We've crossed on the road, we need to be able to respond to that.
We record podcasts.
Exactly, yeah. And we'd say we do need that as well, we'd say. And we do get a boost of cortisol in the morning to wake us up in the morning. You know what I mean? So all these things, it isn't like we'd say that, that our stress hormones are bad and our relaxation hormones are good. It's getting the balance on those is the important part. But I suppose even our education system and all that kind of stuff puts a lot of pressure on us to be successful and to drive and to, be busy all the time and all these kind of things. And even though we mightn't feel too stressed, if we're in that mode, we're on that side of the branch of the nervous system. So we'd say we're in that more alert mode. Our focus and our attention is narrowed into a point as well. It's using a lot of energy as well. Mm-hmm. So if we're doing that all the time, what we find is, we'd say, when we come to the evening time, we might be tired, but we're still quite wired. We're still quite alert, and we lay our heads down and we expect then, we'd say, for us to shut down and go into that parasympathetic straight away. But what happens is that the mind starts to go running through the whole day.
Yes.
And then people find it hard to get to sleep, and they might miss out on maybe the deeper parts of sleep or the earlier parts of sleep, and they find that they have disturbed sleeps throughout the night. That disturbs the hormones and things even more. And then we wake up and we're drained. And
fatigued,
yeah. And another big part of sleep is, in the deeper parts of sleep, our mind processes a lot of the stresses of the day, so it helps us to process that day and to release it in some sense. If we don't get that deeper level of sleep, we don't process it that way, we carry that day into the next day. I
didn't know until you mentioned that, because just for the listeners and the people who watch, I was Joe's client for session, 2 sessions, whatever, and I had that moment when I had dreams after our session and I didn't know why they are there. And you mentioned that, and they were actually, afterwards, I was very aware every time when I had dreams what came out of nowhere, but had a connection to whatever I was going through in my life in that day or in that week. I realized that that's actually my subconscious mind processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that, we'd say a lot of time we may not remember our dreams, but a lot of time we would be dreaming. And like a lot of time we'd say people can see, we'd say if they're wearing wearables and stuff like that, they can see when they go into that more REM state and things like that.
It's good or bad that we don't remember, or doesn't matter?
A lot of time it possibly won't make too much sense to us anyway, because a lot of the time the dream state will be very metaphorical as well. So it might exactly what we're experiencing in the dream mightn't actually be exactly what we're going through. But what we'd find a lot of time, we'd say, were people that might have experienced a lot of trauma, what they'll find is that they can repeat that in their dreams quite a bit.
Yes.
And it's like that the mind is trying really hard to process it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And like that, we'd say the mind likes to complete things as well. So it likes to come to a completion. And if it doesn't come to that completion, it just goes on that loop.
Oh, okay. It makes sense.
Yeah. So then people can, we'd say, be having a stress response in the middle of the night as well, we'd say, without even knowing it. So they could wake up being quite tired.
Yeah.
So, what I see as well is that a lot of the time, I suppose, people are addressing the symptoms of problems, but they're not addressing the cause. And, a sleep problem can be, it's the cause of the sleep problem that I would see that it needs to be addressed. And generally that's overworked, overstressed, or anxiety, or unprocessed emotions or traumas from the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So I know you are working a lot with subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Can you bring a little bit of light on what is conscious mind, what is subconscious mind, and what is your work in regard to those?
Yeah. So like that, we'd say if we just look at it, if we keep it quite simple, we'd say the conscious mind is very logical, rational, and what you see is what you get. The subconscious is very emotional and very much, it's very much the creative side of our mind as well. And it's the side of the mind that is its primary function is to keep us safe and well. So it's not too concerned about us being happy. It just wants to keep us surviving and alive, you know. So like that, we'd say it's going to favor protection over most things as well, you know.
And sometimes protection is familiar and not necessarily what is beneficial.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I suppose a lot of the time we can be comfortable in the familiar, but it mightn't actually be serving us.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
And like that as well, I suppose it can get programmed through our experiences to associate positives to maybe things that might be negative in our lives. We'd say the likes of, for instance, a smoker will, the subconscious will support that smoking habit because at some stage the smoking habit helps them to fit in. It helps them to bond with a group. It helps them to feel a little bit less stressed. These kind of things. So the subconscious will support that habit, you know.
Okay, I have a very good question for you there. I see that in my work with my clients, health related.
Yeah.
Some of the symptoms are a way, I am able to identify that, but it's very hard for me to make the person in front of me conscious into a state of bringing that from the back of their mind, how I explained, to the front of their mind. So they use the nervous system, used the symptoms as keeping them in the familiar. And there is no foundation. So the bloods usually come clear. There is no sign medically of any disturbance in the body, but they still create as a cycle, and keep them in a loop of suffering. And usually that person excuses itself with, but the medical system told me, whatever medical care professional is, told me that my diagnosis is complex and all that. And I feel like it's very running by a belief or running by a subconscious mind. The illness itself or the disease itself is just a conditioning of the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and it can be an overreaction of the immune system, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we'd say a lot of things like hay fever and stuff like that. They're like a phobia of the immune system, basically. We'd say it's basically where there's a certain trigger. The trigger may be the grass and maybe that environment. But it's basically where the immune system is overreacting, you know, and it's very much like the subconscious. The subconscious, if it creates association that a certain thing is of danger, whether it is or not, you know, it could be that spider, it could be that dog, but if it has the programming in there to say dogs are dangerous, you're going to respond with a fear response, and it could be totally irrational because the dog could be the cutest little puppy going, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you have a negative association over from experience, and that's been conditioned through other experiences, and that belief system is running there, what you'll find is that the biggest, the strongest person in the world, if they have a fear of spiders, they can't pick up that little spider. And they know logically and rationally that spider is small and that it can't hurt them and it's non-poisonous and all that kind of stuff. But nothing will bring them to be able to do that because the emotional mind is going, that means dangerous, where I have information at some stage of your experience in life to back that up. And emotion and logic, when they come together, emotion wins out because we are driven by emotion. Really?
Yes. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And some of people, they are thinking being sick gives me the comfort or the care when I'm sick.
That can be it,
yeah. And then I'm conditioning myself.
Yeah, and that can be what we call secondary gain. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I'm familiar with secondary gain.
Yeah.
Will you explain a little bit what do you mean by that?
Well, a secondary gain would be, we'd say that maybe if it's, say for instance, that we haven't got a lot of attention or care in our lives, and then we get sick and we have a lot of people coming around us and showing us love and affection, our subconscious can learn that, okay, this sickness has led us to this. And it isn't that person consciously goes out to make them sick, but what they find is that they're getting more attention and love from that. And like the subconscious our brains connected to our body as well.
This is what I see a lot.
So autoimmune diseases and stuff like that, there's a lot going on that's psychological there as well. It's not something that I have that I work with or anything like that, or I have done any research on, but I know that we'd say that a lot of the time that when we work on emotional stuff, that it can help as well, we'd say, because a lot of things like that, we'd say, have many layers. There's the physical layer, if people, and we'd say where food and exercise. There's the mental and the emotional layers as well. And a lot of the time it takes possibly a multifaceted approach to overcome some of those things. And it hasn't been that we'd say that a person has come to me, we'd say, with an autoimmune disease, but they've come to me, we'd say, maybe with anxiety, or they've come to me with something else. And when working on that, what they found was the symptoms and things like that started to become better, and as well, because the emotional side of things were being taken care of.
I see that a lot with IBS people.
Yeah.
So IBS people is probably 90% due to emotional background, not really physical. And the food is not a trigger. The emotions is how they process events in their life and how they internally nervous system relate to their events.
And I suppose we are creatures of habit, and we tend to create patterns of response to things, and that's the way our brain works, we'd say. So if we do things repetitively in a certain way, or we have a repetitive response in our system, after a while it becomes a subconscious response. So basically we'd say if for instance we have a reaction to a certain food over and over again, our mind will create an association to that food that this is reaction. So it triggers us in that way, And I suppose that's where we'd say, when we start to understand how much, I suppose, that we are maybe in that stressed response. And the thing about it is when we're in the stress response, our digestive system gets shut down. It's not a priority if you're under attack. And basically, when we look at the stress response is looking at it as if we're in danger. So anything that's not a priority to survival, it'll take the energy and out of that.
Yes,
shut
exactly.
It down, Yeah. So we'd say if a person's even in a light state of stress, or they're in what we call the stress side of the nervous system, what you find is they're eating food into a stressed system. So by just learning even some techniques and stuff like that to relax, and a lot of time we'd say it's not uncommon now for people to eat on the run, we'd say. You're eating in the car, maybe standing up, maybe even moving. You see people going down the street maybe with a burger in their hand,
I mean, I am Romanian, as everyone knows, and in Romania it's very common to eat on the street. As a student, we eat and when I came in Ireland, I noticed that people are not eating on the streets. Now, the level of stress is different. Here, people are more calm. And in Romania, when I left 9 years ago, it was more agitated, and I guess it's the same now. But it was obvious for me, very easy to notice that, here people are not eating on the street. So I didn't even think of that, that's a sign of dysregulation.
And like we
or
say,
trying to regulate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in Ayurveda, we'd say, like they look at more of how your eating habits are than what you eat, because they say like that. We'd say we're not built to actually digest food standing up. For instance, like if we look at the animal kingdom, the animals that eat standing up, they have two stomachs and things like that.
Yes,
they're built differently to us, So, but like that, we'd say if we're constantly eating in a stress mode, basically, it's going to create a different response in our system as well. So, by taking a little bit of time to calm the nervous system and stuff like that, and that's where I would see breathwork comes in very, 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 very good, and because it can work very quickly to switch over from that stress response to the relaxation response, and then we'd say the kind of mindful eating type of things helps helps that a lot. But again, we'd say it's a lot down to our habits and our behaviors, really.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about the nervous system, because I didn't get it. So why did you say that it's so old? So what did you mean by that?
Well, we'd say the nervous...
Because I thought my nervous system is only 44 plus 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
why do you say that it's more older than that?
Well, the nervous system is, I suppose, it's the part of our system as well that is it's for sending the signals, we say, from our brain to our body and all that kind of stuff through the vagus nerve, you know. And it's not just today or yesterday that nervous system has been created. Particularly, we'd say the sympathetic side of the nervous system has been formed, we'd say, in primal times for us to survive. Because if we didn't have fear, we possibly wouldn't survive too long. You know, because if we walk to a cliff edge, it's fear that tells us not to go any further, you know. And if we come across an animal or a threat, if we don't have fear, we're not going to have something inside in our brain to go, you need to respond to this. You know what I mean? So I suppose that's why the nervous system is thousands of years old, really. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is when we are in utero, we share a nervous system with our mother. So what our mother is experiencing, we can experience as well. You know, so sometimes we'd say we may not even have an experience in our life, but we could have experienced stress of a loss or a struggle in utero even, and we can be carrying that in our nervous system. And that sometimes that sounds a little bit of a stretch for people, but I've worked with a lot of people, and what they found was, we'd say that when they looked at it as well, that a lot of it was kind of transferred stress. Yeah.
That's why I insisted for you to touch that, because I knew what is your approach on that, and I think it's right for people, because if it came to me, that means I have to say to understand that there is that hidden part or something what is not that easy to see when you are looking at. And I think it's part of connecting ourselves to our background, historically, if I can say, or ancestrally, because we are only a surface. Our roots are down to our generations behind us, but we still can feel. I'm only thinking of the gut, what is my area, one of the areas where I am kind of on the solid ground. Our microbes are 6 generations old. So that means with the microbes, if the microbes are surviving throughout 6 generations, everything what happens throughout 6 generations, everything else in those bodies are still with us.
Yeah, and there's a number of layers there. The other layer is being born. That's our first challenge, and there can be a lot of birth trauma as well. You know, so a lot of time fear can come in that, like we'd say, it could be our first time that our breath is compromised. We'd say, and we could get caught in the birth canal. We could feel feeling of stuckness. You know, so that can be an element. And then as well, we'd say, we learn by what we see as well. So it's if our parents have a nervousness about certain things, we're going to take on maybe that, you know, that's how, you know, a lot of phobias can be taken on as well, because when we're younger, we'd say we're looking to our parents and maybe adults around us, people that are significant in our lives, to how to learn. So if they show a fearful response to something, that can teach us the wrong thing around that, we'd say.
Exactly.
You know, I suppose when we're working with people to help, we'd say, with some traumas and stuff like that, it isn't always the big traumas. It can be the small traumas, and sometimes it can be the overprotection that has created trauma as well, because we start to fear a lot of things in life if we're being warned all the time, oh, be careful of this, be careful of that, at a young age. That imprint period between being born and 7, 8, the first 10 years of our lives is a very impressionable time of our life. And a lot of the time we'd say it's in those years a lot of our responses are kind of formed, and sometimes them responses mightn't even show themselves until later in life. You know, they mightn't be challenged maybe until later in life when we're out on our own, you know.
Yes, yeah. Do you think there is something around age of 40 plus when those things are coming more obvious for people? Is there a reason from your point of view?
It's not something that I've kind of noticed. I think it can vary from person to person.
Okay.
I can think a lot of it as well, it can be what happens in a person's life as well, you know, and certain things we'd say like the loss of a parent can trigger something as well, or you know what I mean, or the fact that we're leaving home and we're going out on our own, you know, that can trigger things. You know, there can be lots of different things that can
so it depends what triggers, really. Yeah.
And what happens sometimes we'd say is like, you know, we'd say like the fear of flying, for instance. Sometimes people don't have a fear of flying and they're perfect, and then they have a bad experience. And it mightn't even be, you know, mightn't even be a really bad experience on a plane, but they might have been in a very stressful time of their life, and that plane journey was there, and at that point the mind associated a very strong emotional I suppose reaction to it. And what generally what it does is the mind will search through its timeline to see how to respond to something similar in the past. And that could be, generally we'd say it's a time we'd say where you felt out of control, and that you felt you weren't in control of it, and it felt really, 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 really uncomfortable. And that connection can be made. And then because of the reaction maybe on the plane and you know, maybe a bit of embarrassment of a reaction or something like that, the next time that person goes into that situation, they might start to feel that coming up, but there's a connection made back to an earlier event, and then that gets conditioned more and more, and then after a while what they can find is that even just thinking about going on the plane, they're starting to feel that. And it's a created association between a specific trigger and a response. So then we'd say anytime they experience that trigger or environment, they're getting that response. And that can happen over time. It can happen in one instance sometimes. It's that high emotional response that the brain will take, you know, the subconscious will take notice to. Or it can be something that can get conditioned over time. So we'd say in the workplace, if somebody is very, very stressed all the time, they're going into that workplace, after a period of time, even just walking in the door, it'll create stress in their system. Because their mind has created association between that environment and this response. So it can be a case, we'd say, where you know, even there's the stress has gone out of the job, but walking in the door has become now just a reminder. A reminder, for the nervous system to respond in that way.
Okay. What would you do in that case? So if you work with a client or you see someone doing that, what's the solution in that case?
The solution for me is first of all to talk through the person's situations with them as well, and to ask them questions to help them to come to aware of what are the stressors in their lives, and what is the pattern that has been, you know, patterns is what I'm looking for, the things that are repeated over and over. Sometimes it's triggers we're looking for as well. And once we can identify that, and sometimes as well, we'd say when a person's awareness comes to that, that's a help. The other thing that we would work on then as well is helping to with certain processes, we'd say with QTT, which is quantum thinking transformation, and NLP, where we can help to do a release on the emotion that a person's feeling in relation to those situations. And that is very, very helpful. And the other thing as well is I teach people with state management tools, so they can start to change their state and, I suppose, get into a more relaxed state in situations, but practice getting into that relaxed state so that that becomes a more dominant state that they're in. And then we'd say what happens is they can naturally start to change that association from a negative association to a positive association. That can be a bit slower, but it can be a lot more empowering because the person learns tools that and generally we'd say when I'm working with somebody, we're doing a combination of those things. I'm doing a release so that we'd say when they go into that situation, they're not feeling that feeling anymore. So then that naturally changes the response. Then we'd say when they're backing that up, we'd say with good state management tools, and they're working on just activating the relaxation response more in that experience, then that conditions a different response in there, and then we'd say it changes the way the mind is starting to naturally respond to it. And you know, I think we'd say when people, the more a person gets involved and takes the approach that they want to learn more about themselves, the stronger and the faster that result is as well.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
Do you come across with situations when the person in front of you, because understands what is happening and how the brain takes over, the subconscious mind takes over, drops the behavior because it understands what happens and what drives that behavior?
Yeah.
Did you see the situation, or is more than that?
It is a bit more than that. Yeah. I think so, first of all, we need to kind of have some of awareness of what's going on consciously.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it's about the subconscious getting that learnings, and that's where the hypnotherapy and things I think comes in, because we say what the hypnotherapy helps us to do is it helps us to project what we know consciously into the subconscious, where the seat and the home of those responses and habits are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's really the power of hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy is, what it's doing is just bringing us into a state of mind, we'd say, where we're more connected with the subconscious mind, and we're in that slower brainwave state so that we can take on these new ideas. When we're in a more, we'd say, and just give a kind of an idea of it, we say there's 4 main brainwave states, and that would be beta, alpha, theta, delta.
Mm-hmm.
And beta is kind of the state we say we're in our day-to-day life. We say when we're focused and our attention, and
hopefully we are in beta.
Yeah. But we have different levels of beta as well, and we go into high beta, and that's, we'd say, where we can be very overwhelmed as well, you know.
Okay.
So if we take it, that's the faster the brainwaves are going, the harder it is to focus. So we'd say with hypnotherapy, what happens is basically the brainwaves slow down. And they become more relaxed. And then we'd say, and like that, we'd say, you know yourself, if you're in a relaxed state and somebody tells you something, you possibly would take it in a lot better. Totally. If you're rushing around the place and your mind is racing and all that kind of stuff, and somebody says something to you, they could have told you their life story, and you possibly wouldn't be able to tell one thing back to them. You know what I mean? So basically that is what the hypnotherapy helps us to do. It helps us to just slow down, and I would say any type of inward focused attention, we'd say, where meditation and stuff like that is, that helps us to do the same. Yeah. And we're just changing the brainwaves into a state, we'd say, that's more receptive. And it becomes more of an accelerated learning state as well, because we learn stuff at a deeper level. And it helps us to change those old beliefs that might have been instilled from bad experiences of the past.
Yes.
And that could be beliefs of not being good enough, or not being able to do it, or that this means danger. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And tell us where the breathwork comes in. I guess here.
And breathwork can be weaved into different parts of this, because we'd say the breathwork can be very useful as well, we'd say, in even helping people with, getting into the state for hypnotherapy as well. If a person is very anxious, the breathwork can help them to relax. The breathwork is very, very useful, we'd say, for lots of different, we'd say, if we want more energy, if we want to help our immune system, the way we breathe has a big part to play in how our body works. Basically, we can live for weeks without food, we can live for days without water, but we only can live for minutes without oxygen. Yeah,
exactly.
And I would say as well that a lot of people that are stressed, I 100% know that a lot of people that are stressed aren't breathing properly.
I think a lot of us, we don't breathe properly. Just when I said now where the breathing comes in, I took a deeper breath, and a conscious deeper breath. And I think definitely we are not aware. Yeah. And there's been more science backing up the effectiveness of breath work as well. Now, the breath work that I'm doing now has advanced quite a bit, because we use music as well with it. I do soma breath, and we combine brainwave entrainment music as well to help people to get into a better pattern of breathing, so people can breathe to the beat of the music as well, so they become more rhythmical breathers. That helps to calm the nervous system, and it helps us get into a better state and stuff like that. It makes it more enjoyable as well. It makes it easier for people to access meditation as well, because sometimes people can find, I suppose, meditation is a bit slow or is a bit boring. But we'd say when you add some kind of physical, high energy music to it, and people are focused and it's helping them to breathe to rhythm,
that can make a massive difference as well to the practice. Like everything, you know, a person can meditate once and make them feel good, but it isn't going to change their life. It's what becomes a daily habit or practice. And I suppose the thing about what I find about breathwork is education is a big part of it, and there's certain ways we can breathe that are going to be a lot more efficient at breathing, be more efficient with oxygen. But like that, we'd say knowing it isn't going to make the difference. It's doing the practices and becoming aware of your breath, just like you were aware that we'd say you breathe you breathe it a bit deeper there.
It takes consciousness.
It takes that awareness, and like that we'd say when people apply that and they start to make that changes so that they change the pattern of their breathing, that makes a big difference, because now every minute of every day you're breathing better. Generally when people are, you know, panicked, overwhelmed and stuff like that, what they'll find is they're breathing very quickly, very, very fast, upper chest. And
I think it's a bit of waste of time to tell them stop and breathe, because it's so focused on survival in that moment that
and it won't go in at that moment. And the other thing as well is we'd say, and there is certain breathwork techniques that will help you to switch over there, but it's a bit like we'll say, you know, a lot of time people, they think of these things in the midst of all that chaos, and they try this new technique in the midst of all that chaos. And it's a bit like we'd say trying out a new technique on the hurling field and All Ireland final. You know what I mean? You know, they don't do that. They do the techniques in the practice, and they
until
master
become
them.
A familiar technique.
And as well, it becomes unconscious nearly. You know what I mean? It becomes so just totally
switch that.
And they don't have to think about it so much. So like that, we'd say, I think when we practice these techniques in the calm, that prepares us for the chaos.
That's a very good point. And do you teach breathwork?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
At the moment, the way I teach is I do a 1-day workshop with people, and then we say there's some online resources to back that up as well.
It's a group work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do 1-to-1 as well. We'd say a lot of time we'd say when people are coming to me, we'd say I'm not just doing one thing with them. It can be a blend of lots of different, we'd say there can be some hypnotherapy. It's really what that person needs. But I would say that very, very, very rarely somebody comes through the door that we're not doing some breath work, because breath work has just such a great overall help in our general well-being.
Yeah, totally.
And depending on how interested the person is in, the deeper they can go with it. And you like that.
I think there shouldn't be any therapy without a breathwork.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's such an essential function.
For sure.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So one question before I ask you to ask me a question. What you are doing, what habit do you have on a daily basis? What makes you to feel, okay, if I wouldn't have that habit, I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't function the way how I function, or I wouldn't be as efficient, or I wouldn't be able to serve. What do you think makes a difference?
I would say the first thing would be breathwork, to be honest, because I do think that breathwork, we'd say, practice regularly, can help us to get into a better state. And the other thing is awareness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you practicing awareness on an automatic way now, or you are very intentional about it?
At times it's automatic, but like that, we'd say it is about, and I do think we'd say that we can't make much change without awareness. I think awareness comes first. So once we get aware of what's going on for us, or what or even if it was a problem, we have to become aware of that problem first. Then we have to get clarity on it. So clarity on what it is that problem is, and the truth about it, because sometimes we'd say our mind has ways of kind of making it
covering
it up and making it maybe better than what it is, or telling us lies about it, really, and once we get clear on that, we know
and there's nothing wrong with us. Just let us let people know that it's nothing wrong with us. It's just the self-preserving. So like that, we'd say, so we can I suppose we can try to make a situation better than what it is, just to feel better about it, which is okay. But if we want to make a change in it, we have to kind of look and see, well, this is where we are at. Get clear on, then we'd say what we want instead of it. And once we do that as well, there's a big shift in our psychology, because we're starting to look at the result we're looking for. And our mind now is getting a target as well. And then we'd say it does take some consistent action after that as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love the way how the chat went, so nice and smooth. Now, shoot me with a question.
Well, my question really is about the title to your podcast and your upcoming book. Why did you choose that title in particular?
I did dig a little bit for a title. I think that was one what resonated with me, because it was a moment when I realized that I don't want to go anymore with my parents' choice for me, my husband at the time choice for me. I just want to have the courage to say, I want to choose me. I want to make my decisions based on what I want, because I was living a life based on everyone else around me, what they wanted for me or for themselves, but I didn't, and that was on emotion, which I wasn't happy. So when I started to make those choices. It wasn't easy. It was extremely painful at times, but always that was prompted me. Like when it was hard, that was my to-go thought. Okay, you did that because you wanted to choose you, and go for it. And that brought me back to continuing on this path. Yeah. Okay. And it makes a lot of sense that every day I'm choosing me, not to hurt anyone else around me, not with it's just a self-love and self-care, because I know if I have that feeling of being seen, heard, loved by myself from within, I know I can spread that around.
Yeah. And I love that word choose, because I think it's very empowering. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And I suppose whether we like it or not, we've made choices in the past that have brought us to where we are today.
I think we are making choices every day. And we are,
and when we take, and I know it's Jack Canfield, he wrote the books, many books about chicken soup for the soul and things like that.
I heard of. Yes. I didn't read the book, but yes, I am familiar with the title. Yeah.
And I heard him talk before, and when he started, we'd say he started with a job, we'd say, with W. Clement Stone. He was a big businessman, and the first question he was asked was, do you take 100% responsibility for your life? And he started kind of coming up with a few excuses, and he said, no, you have to take 100% responsibility. That, there's no excuses, there's no blaming people, stuff like that. And, you've made choices that have led you to here. So, and it is a tough one at times, because,
it's a confronting one, I guess.
It is.
And I think based on what you told us during the conversation, it's clear that our subconscious mind makes choices without us, our analytical mind, to be aware and involved much. Yes. And we create our reality.
Yeah. And that's where that awareness comes in. And then the awareness is that we have other choices. That's very freeing as well, that we can say, well, okay, I have been choosing this, so what would I like to choose, and focus on that. And that's empowering, because now you're kind of going, well, okay, I'm gonna choose something different going forward.
Yes, and also I would add something: when you are under stress, you can't see other possibilities.
Yes, yeah,
and you can't see other options what you have there. Yeah. I think that's why it's so important to know how to bring yourself in a state of balance, where you can see that, oh, actually, I can. There are so many possibilities are unlimited. Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that's why even having a conversation with somebody else can be so beneficial as well, because they can help us to take a step back.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, you know, it's always easier for somebody from the outside to see some of these things than being when we're in it. And when we take that little bit of time and space and we get into that, like you're saying, into a better, more relaxed state, it can help us to see that and be able to then see that there is more options. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being my guest and for the beautiful chat. When or where people can find you, and I guess how?
Yeah, I suppose the easiest way to find me is joeforde.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and from there it's
so one shop.
Well, from there there's different branches, but yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.